Okay, hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jarek Wegwert for the LSTC Working with Speech on the Computer course, and a very quick look at splitting or cutting, dividing larger audio files into smaller ones using Audacity. So, a quick summary. Run Audacity, open your large file, select a bit of audio, adjust to zero crossings, go to Edit, Clip Boundaries, Split, select the next bit, repeat the procedure, and so on and so on and so on. Now each of these clips becomes selectable by double-clicking, File, Export Selection, Bob's your uncle. There. So now let's do the same with a little bit more commentary to see how this is done and why. So let's run Audacity again, File, Open, and open the larger file. Now what would normally happen in a manual situation, in a manual procedure, is you'd select the fragment of audio that is of interest, that you need as a smaller file, and then just go to File, Export Selection. And as you can see, this is already the fourth file that I'm writing. I was testing this before starting the recording. Okay, and then let's move on to the second one. Okay, so this is the second fragment that is, oh, hang on. Now I want to go back to the previous selection and change something there. Or maybe I've lost the previous file and now I want to save the same fragment again. How do I do that? I can't, because there's no record of where I cut. And this is the one of the largest weaknesses of purely manual procedures. There is no record of what you did, and especially in a larger projects where you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of files, you want to be able to redo things. You want to know what operations you performed. If you can record them, not all of those can be recorded, but if you can record them, why not use that opportunity? Why not record that? So that's what I did at the very beginning. So let's select the first fragment of audio. Let's go to Edit and find zero crossings. That takes care of the edges of the selection, so that each edge, let's zoom in really well, we won't see much here. Sorry, we won't be able to see it here, but let's select a bit of the vowel here. If you go to Edit, find zero crossings, you will see that the selection here, the darker fragment is the selection, the lighter fragment is the stuff that we haven't selected. The selection actually starts at a point where the waveform crosses zero, and that helps with clicks and pops and all kinds of unwanted transient effects when playing the audio back. So that's the usual procedure when cutting things in audio editors. Do it at so-called zero crossings, where the waveform crosses the zero line. Okay, so once again, select the important fragment, go to Edit, find zero crossings. Well, if you're not worried about how this will play back, then you don't need to do the zero crossings bit. Then Edit, Clip Boundaries, Split. As you can see, these two vertical brown lines show that the larger track in Audacity has been split into three independent clips. One here, and one here. As you can see, I can select them by double-clicking. So let me select this by double-clicking. Go to File, Export Selection, and I think this is the fifth, yes, the fifth small file now that I'm saving. Enter, and it's been saved. Now the key here is to save this whole file as an Audacity project as well. So this is the warning that we saw earlier when concatenating files. It warns us that the Audacity project will only be readable by Audacity, but since Audacity is free and open source, it's not a big problem. Let's call it, let's say, cutting. AUP, that's the default extension for an Audacity project. Save. Let's close Audacity, reopen it, and now when we reopen the by going to recent files, cutting, there is our segment, there is our clip, as they call it in Audacity. There, it's there, it's saved for us. So if you want to go back to the cutting procedure for one reason or another, your cutting locations are saved here. Another way of doing the same, of preserving the locations of your cuts, is to use labels. So let's select the second fragment. Let's go to Edit, find Zero Crossings, and now let's go to Tracks and add Label at Selection. This is a built-in command, Control B. Press that and you get a label. You can enter any text in this little white field here. You can enter any text you want. So let's call it label. Pretty silly label, but still. And now this track can be saved as a label track, right? So let's go to File, Export Labels, and as you can see, by default it's called label track. So let's leave that, and it's a TXT file. So let's save it. Close Audacity. Save changes? No, we don't want to save changes. I mean, we could, or we should in fact, but because then you can save the labels as part of the project, but I want to show that the labels are, let's say, loadable, openable separately. So let's open the file cutting, the project cutting. So this is where we had our first approach to cutting, and now we can also open, we can import, actually we've got to import labels. Okay, label track, and see, that's your label. If you double click it now, it'll select the not double, is it double clicking? It's single clicking within the label. It'll select the fragment of audio that is of interest to you, and you can export that as export selection as a small file, and there. So that's how it works. Thank you very much.